What is up, guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. This has been somewhat of a popular thing to do among YouTubers, doing tier lists. I've seen tier lists for racing games, for, food places, movies, music, the whole lot, and today I thought I'd do one for the F1 games, because I don't think, I checked earlier and there's been no tier list made for the F1 games on YouTube, so I thought I'd kick things off and let's piss a few people off. So let's get started. This is the 2000 to 2019 F1 games tier list maker. A lot of these F1 games I have played, a lot of which you would have seen on the channel. You guys have a general idea of how I feel about the F1 games, but now we're going to put them into individual tiers, and we're going to talk about them and see which of the F1 games of the past 20 years or so is the best and which are the worst. So let's get started. Down the bottom. Okay, so bear in mind, my first F1 game that I ever played was F1 2010, but I have gone back and played older F1 games, obviously, so there are some here and there that I'm pretty familiar with. Alright, first off, we have F1 Championship, a game I have not played, so to be a bit anticlimactic here off the start, I can't really say much for this game, so I'm actually not going to put it on the list. Same with the second one, but this F1 Championship, I think it's... Let me have a look. One second. It is F1 Challenge 99 to 02. I actually have this game, but it's for PC, and I don't have a CD-ROM, so I can't play it. But I hear that it is God tier, like on the same level as like F1 2006, like F1 Championship Edition. So based on reputation, I'm actually going to put this at awesome. And I don't put it at God tier because I haven't played it, so I can't tell you, unfortunately. Grand Prix, this blue one down here, don't know, haven't played it. This one, don't know, haven't played it. This one, the same, don't even know what that game is. F105, I think it is good, not great. F1 Championship Edition, probably the longest running career mode series on my channel. Lengthwise, time-wise, year-wise, I think I've played that career mode for like 3 years. God tier. It was an amazing F1 game, like way ahead of its time. It introduced so many things, like driver tests and having to earn your way into Formula One. It was ridiculously difficult. There were no flashbacks. The curbs were ridiculously brutal. The damage model was brutal as well. There was no restart, so if you crashed out, that was it. You had to restart the whole weekend, and it was a real pain in the ass. Some things that let it down, the handling wasn't great, which is what you'd expect, and the consistency, like track to track, the AI were like ridiculously fast one race, but then the other you'd be 2 seconds, 3 seconds a lot faster than them sometimes. So that kind of let it down, but apart from that, it was an amazing game. It had classic cars, trophy rooms, it had the lot. Except online. Well, no, it did have online, but, it doesn't work nowadays. F106, I think it's pretty much the same game, so I'm just going to put it up there with the good category. F1 2009. Now, this is where the Codemasters saga comes into it. This was released on the Wii. Didn't play it, but it was an influential game in the way that it got Codemasters started, and it got things going. I haven't played it, so it's hard to give it a ranking. But if I could, I would probably give it, like, average. But we're going to put it back, because I haven't played it. Graphics were a bit meh. Handling, I think, wasn't that great. But, yeah, we'll leave it there. I think this is a comprehensive thing of, like, okay, I haven't played these influential F1 games, but I really should get on to doing that after F1 2019 dies down. All right. Now we move on to the good stuff, the stuff that I know, the stuff that you know hopefully really well, and this is what really kicked it off for me. F1 2010, the game that got me into the sport of Formula One. I started watching F1 in 2010, whole Mark Webber saga with Sebastian Vettel, then the game solidified my place within the F1 community, I guess, and then I started making videos and got league racing, 100%. God tier, I'll give it God tier. Amazing game, way ahead of its time, just like in that same category as F1 Championship Edition. The handling wasn't great in F1 2010. That was probably the only letdown, but the graphics, I think, looked really good. It's like a nostalgia feel. There were a bit more grayed out, a bit more dull, but the graphics did look really good. The menus worked really well. The music, the soundtrack was awesome. Online, F1 2010 had the best online I've ever seen in the F1 game franchise. It's probably the closest thing we had to iRacing. There was no such thing as the side pod glitch, I don't think. There was like no lag bubble. There was no desync. The cars were perfectly lined up with where you saw them on track. The career mode was amazing. We had driver interviews. Just a shame that we don't have quality of F1 games like we do nowadays. It was really influential for me. I did so many seasons of career mode. Got me started with league racing, and just, yeah, it really has got me in the position that I'm in today. Okay, let's move on to the next set of games, and F1 2011 was interesting. It was the first new game that came out for me. I was like supremely buzzed and supremely hyped about this new game coming out, but it just wasn't quite at the same level of F1 2010. Career mode wise, I think they were still really good. They had the driver interviews, they still had the paddock feel about the career mode, but they kind of went backwards with a lot of things, online being the biggest one. It was riddled with online problems, like that you could be following someone and your car would be like here, but on another person's screen it would be like 2 car links back. And for me, racing in Australia against UK people, that would just made online impossible. But otherwise, it was a good game. The handling was okay. No, I'm actually going to move this down to average. I'm going to move it down to average because the handling was a bit crap. You could turn in at full lock on the wheel, and it was just completely unrealistic, super floaty. And then there was this huge debacle in the league racing and competitive scene where you found a right setup and you would be 2 seconds a lot faster than someone who was running like 6.6 suspension settings, like stiffness settings. If you were on 6.6, but if you moved it to 11.11, you'd gain 2 seconds a lap. It was ridiculous. But yeah, it's average. Nearly put it at bad, but I think given the career mode features, I'll still leave it at average. Let's move on now to F1 2012. This was the game where they kind of moved away from the live the life lifestyle of living in the paddock and having an immersive world in career mode. And the menus changed a little bit. It changed to like a wind tunnel kind of effect. I actually really like the menus in F1 2012, but apart from that, it was a bit they kind of went back to their roots of like 2010 in many ways. The handling model went back to being very understeery and not floaty anymore. The pad players were a lot happier because they can actually compete with the wheel for the first time ever. 2010 and 2011, the wheel was way faster, so that was kind of groundbreaking. Slipstream wasn't a thing in 2012. 2011, it was massively overpowered. What else? 2012 saw the introduction of like tiered teams. So like there was 3 different tiers: the top teams, midfield, and then back markers. If you're in a back marker and you won the championship, your team would get upgraded into midfield status. And yeah, that was the first kind of time we saw that in the F1 games, and then they didn't touch it again until like 2016, and they introduced R&D. But yeah, 2012 was a good game. The online was much better. You could race wheel to wheel a lot more, but it was infamous for the lag bubble, where you could punt someone off if you got within half a car length of someone in a braking zone. So that kind of set it back, but otherwise I feel like it was a good game. I'm going to chuck it there. F1 2013, we saw a introduction of classic cars, classic tracks. Career mode, I feel like, took a bit of a backward step, but it did have a lot of content on the side. So we had the classic cars, classic tracks, we had scenario mode, time attack was a thing as well. The handling model got better, graphics got better. Online, I think, was okay. Maybe not as good as 2012, but all the other features made it an awesome game for me. And really set the tone and brought Codemasters back into the forefront of making good F1 games again. Jeez, I can't talk. 2014. Didn't like this game at all. I don't think many people like this game, to be honest. It was a step in the wrong direction for them. Career mode got even worse. Online got worse. Handling model got worse. and it was just atrocious. The cars got less grip, less downforce. You had to slide the cars around like trolleys to get them through the corners fast. Online was worse. There was heaps of bugs and glitches. Career mode got worse as well. And this was the first year of the V6 hybrid era. So a lot of things culminating together. It wasn't on next-gen consoles. I think it was the last game on Xbox 360. The new-gen consoles were out, but it was still on old-gen. It was a bit of a farce, to be honest. And I think overall the game was kind of rushed out. So I'm going to put it as trash. I think it was a bad game. So it rightfully goes there. The pad was massively overpowered, which, you know, we can't have that for a racing game. F1 2015, again, on that kind of really, really bad level. This was the first game for new gen. I think the only thing going for this game was the fact that the handling model got revamped for new gen consoles. David Greco came on board and just really revamped the handling, and it set the foundation for what we have today. That was the only good thing about that game, but everything else was absolutely horrible. They completely got rid of career mode, so there's no career mode. What we played was Grand Prix mode to get through the single player experience. No evolution from season to season. You would do your Grand Prix season and then restart. That was it. You couldn't drive as yourself. You had to drive as a 2015 driver. They introduced this thing called Pro Season Mode, which was absolutely rubbish. Basically, it turned off all the HUD and all the assists and got rid of flashbacks. Horrible game. They got rid of custom matchmaking. They had these online hoppers. It was really, really bad. Looking back on it, I can't believe that game actually made it out. There was so many things wrong with it. And that was just the start. Like, online was really horrible, like I said. It was the first year that desync started to happen. We had things like flying cars, instant win races, like in 3-lap races. You could just start the race and then boom, instantly someone won. That was how bad it was. They got rid of safety cars. They got rid of red flags, and red flags to this day have never come back. Basically, they started the game from ground up again with 2015, and it was just riddled with problems. Absolutely 100% trash. But the saving grace of that game was the handling, and the graphics got a lot better. But just the most bare-bone game you'll ever see. 2016. A good game for me. Career mode came back. They brought it back in a big way. R&D was introduced. We saw the inclusion of the formation lap for the first time. R&D was really good. It allowed you to go from a backmarker team to the top. But the problem was it wasn't balanced. You could do it in a really, really quick time, like 1 or 2 seasons. And it kind of took away from the longevity of that game, which was unfortunate. From what I remember, Slipstream was really, really powerful on this game, on 2011 levels of powerful. The wheel was quite a bit faster than the pad, so online it wasn't fun for the pad players. Manual starts was an introduction for this game, but it did set the foundation for the games that we see today. And I'm going to put it at the... I'm going to put it a good tier. You know, the fact that career mode got brought back in a really good way separates it from average and puts it into the good category. F1 2016, this is the mobile game. I did one video of this, and average. It was for a mobile game, it was pretty good, but I don't like mobile gaming, so I can't really give it a good rating. Nothing much to say. It's just okay. Now, F1 2017. Again, they built upon the foundations of what they had in 2016. This was the year that the development tree got introduced. Just really made the upgrading system that much more complex. We could now do 6-7 seasons before we ran out of upgrades. But I personally experienced so many glitches with the 2017 career mode experience. My upgrades were not applying to my McLaren for the first half of the season. And then when they did finally get upgraded, applied to my car, they weren't applied to the teammates. And that made the whole career mode experience just really, really frustrating for me. And it just really took away from the enjoyment. It was too easy. And then, yeah, I kind of got sick of it after like 3 seasons, which was yeah, a real shame. We had things like the 11 ballast thing come into it with setups. F1 esports started around that time, so online was starting to take a bit of a focus, but still there was a lot of bad things which set that game back. So I'm going to put this at average. They did make things better. They improved upon from F1 2016, but they just got so many things wrong, so that makes it average for me. Oh, they introduced classic car scenarios for F1 2017 in career mode, but even to this day, I don't like them. They're pretty boring, and they didn't really add much for me. Now, F1 2018, the game that we still love and play to this very day. So they improved upon many things from F1 2017. We saw the introduction of like contracts and perks. Claire was introduced with career mode, so we got these timed interviews, which was pretty cool. ERS, battery usage, was included for the first time, and that really added a skill gap for competitive players over the regular people. We got the super license and skill rating. We got more classic cars from what we had from F1 2017. The controller got some improvements, better steering response, so tracks like Monaco were a lot nicer for those players. Curbs were harder to use, so they made the handling model a little bit more complex. Every year, things got just a little bit harder and a bit more advanced, which was cool. But the one thing which I didn't enjoy was the online side of things. Ranked was heavily flawed, as you saw in my recent ranked series trying to get platinum or master rank. It was just an absolute shambles. One bad race and you get sent back to the Stone Age. So that was a really, really bad takeaway for me. But the super license came in and made people play a little bit more cleanly, which I think has made a difference. Sprint mode lobbies or public lobbies are nowhere near as like crazy as what they used to be. And I think that's for the better. I think the pad versus wheel debate, it's still fairly balanced, but it could be a little bit better for the pad. But otherwise, I think we've got a pretty good foundation for this year's game. Career mode, I don't know. Like, it was good. They did a lot of things right, but I feel like the R&D progression was just a little bit too fast for me, and that's really kind of let F1 2018 down a little bit. So without the F1 2018 progression being too fast, I would have put it at awesome, but I'm going to put it at good. Just with those things considered. Could have been awesome, maybe even God tier if they had all of their issues settled, but it was just missing a few details here which set it back. One thing that I find is a bit odd is they don't have F1 race stars in this, but I'm going to include it anyway. Let's take this little icon and pretend that this is F1 race stars. I want to talk about that because it was a pretty cool game, very different. They went down a very, very arcade route to try and appeal to like kids and younger people and people that just like a more casual racing experience. My battery is getting very low, so I'm going to speed this up. Basically, it was a really good game, really fun, but frustrating because the power-ups would keep blowing you up. You'd get front wing damage and the car would be very understeery. I think it's an average game. It would be awesome, maybe even God tier, if the handling was a lot better, much more akin to Mario Kart or Crash Team Racing, but it's just a little bit too, I don't know, it's not satisfying enough, and that really makes it average and not good or awesome. So yeah. Finally, F1 2019, the game that has actually not been released yet as of the time of me making this video, but with everything that I've heard that they've got planned that's coming, I think this has the potential to be right up there in God tier. But that's unfair. It's completely unfair to give that rating. We don't know what career mode is going to be like at all. Online is getting heaps and heaps of features, customization, league racing support, hopefully better ranking system. That's what I'm praying for. Better netcode. They've put more people onto the online team to really get that side of the game nailed down. But I'm going to give it a good rating. I'm not going to give it awesome. The handling seems to be a little bit different. Lockups are harder to induce, harder to get on top of this year. AI seems to be a little bit harder. Rain is different, and you can't ride on curbs as much as what you could in previous games. So I'm going to give it good, and we might adjust that in the future based on what happens with the game's release. Could be a lot of bugs. It could be really well polished. They've been working on this game for 2 years, so it has the potential to be good, but because we haven't played the full game, it's just we can't put it there. We just can't. We'll leave it there, and we'll see what happens over the next couple of months. That is my F1 games tier list. Let me know what you thought of it. I can't believe I didn't put a game in the bad section. You know, F1 2017 could go there. The mobile game could easily go there. But, yeah, it's up for debate. Any of these games could have gone in there too, but I just haven't played them. So we'll leave it at that. I reckon if I played the 2009 Wii game, I'd probably put it in the bad tier, possibly. But let me know what you think. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to see plenty more racing game content. Should I do other tier lists? Let me know. I don't know if I have too much experience to talk of for other topics, but if you want to see it, feel free to let me know. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys for a brand new video very soon.